This is what happens when a narcissist doesn't handle a breakup well. This chick slit her boyfriend's throat open on camera. Jodi Arias met Travis Alexander in 2006. They were both attending a business conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. The day they met, they stayed up all night getting to know each other. Jodi lived in California and Travis lived in Arizona. They started developing a long-distance relationship through text messages. Shortly after Jodi met Travis, she ended up leaving her long-term boyfriend that she actually bought a house with. Jodi was very serious about Travis. I mean, if you're gonna buy a house with someone and then just be like, hey, I met someone new, bye. Obviously. And she started getting really close with Travis. They would text and talk on the phone all day, every day. The two would send tens of thousands of text messages to each other. That would mean that they would have had to been like on the phone with each other like 24/7 nonstop. Eventually, Jodi started taking trips out to see Travis. Travis was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is a very strict church. You're not allowed to drink tea, coffee, caffeine, alcohol. You're not allowed to smoke tobacco. You can't use birth control or condoms. And you're most definitely not allowed to have sex until marriage. Now here's the thing. Both Travis and Jodi are like freaks. They would sext each other regularly and they would have phone sex as well. And when Jodi would come out to see Travis, well, obviously they would hook up. Even though this wasn't allowed in Travis's religion, he continued to have a sexual relationship with Jodi. And at times it made him feel very guilty. He shared his beliefs with Jodi and he challenged her to read the Book of Mormon. Jodi was obsessed with Travis, so she would do anything for him. Even change her own religion if it meant having a chance to be with Travis. That's a little intense, you know? Let me do the other eye real quick. Okay, much better. So she read the entire Book of Mormon. She was so invested in this man that if he was like, hey, go jump off a bridge, she would literally go jump off of a bridge. Since Jodi was not a part of the Mormon church, Travis would not be in a relationship with her. So later that same year, Jodi converts to the Mormon church and Travis's friends start to begin to express their true feelings about Jodi to him. Jodi and Travis were so close that she had the passwords to his emails and all of his social media accounts. To be honest, a lot of his friends did not like Jodi. When Jodi was over at Travis's house, sometimes she would eavesdrop on private conversations that he was having. One of Travis's friends was so worried about him, they literally told him,
we're afraid we're gonna find you chopped up in her freezer.
But Travis would reassure his friends that she was a good person and they just didn't know her like he did. A majority of their relationship was only sexual though. Travis was a 30-year-old man and this was his first relationship that involved sex. Even though him and Jodi were still not in a relationship, she considered him to be her boyfriend. Travis was playing the field. He was talking to a lot of women at the same time. Jodi had a feeling that he was being unfaithful. So one day when she was over at his house, he fell asleep and she went through his phone text messages and she found texts of him flirting with other women. Jodi was not okay with this. She flipped out and Travis broke up with her. He said that it was an invasion of his privacy. He felt like Jodi was getting too close to him and he wasn't comfortable being with her anymore. Any normal person would accept this breakup and go their separate ways. But this only made Jodi want Travis more. Since she was so invested in Travis, Jodi ended up packing up all her belongings in California and moving all the way to Mesa, Arizona, in the exact town that Travis lived in. She did this in hopes that Travis would change his mind and want to be with her. But Travis already began dating other women. He started to realize that Jodi was stalking him. At one point, she even went over to his house and was peeking through his window and saw him with another girl. So Jody slashed his tires. Travis only gave Jody attention when it came to hooking up. Jody kind of knew this, but honestly, she didn't really care. Like, if he was giving her attention, that's all that mattered to her. She would call up Travis and be like, I want to see you. I want to hook up. Can I come over? And because that's all that Travis really wanted, he would be like, yeah, sure, come over. Jody started doing some really weird things just to get Travis's attention. Like break into his house by using the doggy door. And then she would strip completely naked and wait in bed for him until he got home. Apparently that's supposed to be hot or something. I don't know. She wanted to be the only woman in Travis's life. She would log on to his email, and if she saw that he was talking to another woman, she would threaten them that they needed to leave him. Then she would go and threaten Travis that she would expose him to his church and tell them about all the sexual things that he was participating in. Because sometimes Jody would record them having phone sex, and she would use that as blackmail. Even though she did all of this, he still didn't stay away from her. They continued having a sexual relationship for the next year. Even though they weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, they were still hanging out, hooking up, and sometimes they would even go traveling together. Jody was having a hard time finding work, so she ended up moving back to California. And Travis finally decided to end things with Jody. He had a work trip coming up where he was going to take Jody to Cancun with him, but he decided that he did not want to go with her anymore and he did not want to speak to her anymore. And this changed everything for Jody. Her jealousy and rage became uncontainable. On May 28th, 2008, Jody stole a .25 caliber handgun from her grandparents' house. She went to Redding, California and purchased a rental car. She then called her ex-boyfriend that lived in California, the guy she dated before Travis, and asked to borrow 2 gas cans. And she never said why she truly needed those gas cans. She arrived at his house, picked up the gas cans, and left. She went to a gas station and purchased 10 gallons of gas, then drove to a different gas station and bought 10 more gallons of gas. She bought enough gas to drive from California to Arizona without having to stop. And that's exactly what she did. She drove all the way back to Arizona to Travis's house. They didn't make any plans to hang out. Matter of fact, Travis didn't even know that Jody was going to Mesa, Arizona. Jody just showed up to his house and asked to come in. They started talking and they ended up engaging in intercourse. Jody and Travis would take pictures of each other naked. This was a normal thing that they did. So they're taking pictures of each other naked, and Travis ends up getting into the shower, and they continue having their little at-home photo shoot. These are the last photos of Travis alive. As Travis is sitting on the floor of the shower, Jody's taking pictures of him and she pulls out a knife. Jody starts stabbing him. He tries grabbing the knife and he ends up with defensive wounds on his hands. She continues to stab him as he's getting out of the shower and he stumbles over in front of the sink. Jody begins to stab him in the back multiple times, very deep, and she ends up hitting a main artery inside of his heart. Travis is trying to get away from her, and he ends up getting down the hall. Jody comes up behind him and slits his throat, ear to ear, almost completely cutting his head off. She drags Travis's lifeless body back down the hall and then shoots him in the head after he's already dead. She shoves him back inside the shower. She tries to clean up some of the blood off of the floor, but there is literally blood everywhere. She panicked and tried to get out of there as fast as possible. She grabs all of the bed sheets off the bed. Obviously her DNA's in that. She grabs the camera that they used to have their little photo shoot, and she goes downstairs and shoves it inside of the washing machine. She pours a bunch of bleach in the washing machine and then she turns it on. What Jody didn't know though is when she was attacking Travis, the camera was actually taking pictures. She grabs the knife, the gun, she takes the plates off of her car, and she leaves. She drives out into the desert and she throws them away. Then she calls Travis's phone and pretends like nothing happened.
My phone died, so I wasn't getting back to anybody. And what else? Oh, and I drove 100 miles in the wrong direction. Over 100 miles, thank you very much. So yeah, remember New Mexico? It was a lot like that. Only you weren't here to prevent me from going into the 3 digits. So fun. But Heather and I are going to see Othello on July 1st, and we would love for you to accompany us.
Basically just a bunch of stuff to try to cover her tracks. And then she drives all the way to Utah to go see a different man that she spends the night with. Sister, I don't think so. 5 weeks later, Jodi gets arrested. At the crime scene, they find her blood, her hair, her fingerprints, along with an SD card of her and Travis's last moments together. Even though she threw that camera in a washing machine, they were able to recover the pictures that were on the SD card. Jodi tried to deny any involvement in Travis's murder. She came up with an alibi that she was on a road trip to Utah the whole time, that she was never even in Arizona. Then she came back and said that she was at Travis's house, but someone came in and attacked the both of them and then killed Travis. She switched her story again and said that Travis actually attacked her and she killed him in self-defense. Jodi stabbed him 27 times. She slit his throat open, ear to ear, almost leaving him headless. And then she shot him in the head for good measure. This was a crime of passion. This was premeditated, and this was not just something that happened. Oops. Accident. On Jodi's 28th birthday, she was found guilty with the first-degree murder of Travis, and she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jodi still denies that she was obsessed with Travis and killed him out of spite. She even goes on interviews and tries to make herself seem like the victim still. I found one interview of her saying, "Don't turn the camera on until I put my makeup on," which was really interesting considering someone who almost was put on death row.
I guess that's really all I needed. Sorry, don't roll the tape yet.
If that isn't a narcissist, then I don't know what is. Jodi Arias is a good example of why you should never judge a book by its cover. Here is today's finished look. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section below what story you'd like to hear me cover next. You can follow me on any of my social medias at Mackenzie Marie, and I will see you here in my next video. Toodles!